am excited to have Mr. Trip Smith with us today. So I told you all just a brief introduction before we left class on Tuesday. I kind of found Trip on YouTube. My boyfriend and I were just like scrolling through and we're like, oh, we were thinking about doing an overnight kayaking trip, which I had done before several years back, but so my boyfriend had never done it and was kind of, we were looking at gear and stuff and found Trip. And so then we got to watching his videos and we found out that he had this big event that he puts on in the fall in Geneva, Alabama called RockaDock. We thought, well, let's get in on this year because we watched some of the videos from the previous years, looked like a good time. I kind of surprised my boyfriend with tickets to RockaDock. I don't know that he was really going to commit, and so I committed us. And anyway, we had a blast. And during that process, I thought, gosh, you know, from an event planning perspective, teaching this class, this is a lot of work. This is like a lot of organization because you have the weather that you're dealing with, and you have all people from all over the country. And so this thing is kind of growing and becoming its own beast. And I watched Trip go live several times through the planning process to keep all of the people updated on registrations and what was still available. And so anyway, I just thought he would be able to share some great perspective with us. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Trip.
All right. Well, like you said, I'm Trip Smith, and I have a YouTube channel, and I've have developed this audience and who enjoy watching me go out and do these adventures and stuff, and people wanted to do these adventures with me. And so I'd said, okay, well, how can I make that happen? I'm like, well, I might just, hey, why don't I just make an event and just invite everybody to come and kind of do an adventure. And basically it was started as a 5-day event where people would come and camp in one central spot, one central venue. And it was surrounded by good paddling areas. We would just kind of venture out during the day to different places and paddle, and then come back and camp at night all together and just hang out and do all kinds of, good time stuff. And so prior to this, I didn't have any, event planning experience. I was never an event director or whatever you want to call it. But I was an event goer, and I had been to a lot of events. I like to have a good time. And so I tried to take whatever I had learned from the previous events that I had attended and applied all those things that I liked to my event. And so I created RockaDock and just started planning it. But it all started because there was a need. And, so whenever, you want to have an event, of course, most time you want it to be prosperous and, need a good business plan. And so there needs to be a need. There needs to be a reason for people to want to come to your event. Right? If you just make an event and no one wants to come, it's not going to be successful, right? So there was certainly a need there. So then, the next step I went into is I started researching, okay, what are some other events similar to the event that I want to put on? And okay, what are kind of some of the elements, and, how do they do it? How much do they charge, blah, 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 how does all this work? And so I kind of started learning from other events, but there really weren't many to learn from because there's nothing kind of like what I do that has people camping primitively and going out and paddling and just all together. And, because there's a lot that goes into it, but there's a lot that goes into most any event. So then I also thought, okay, how do I make my event special? How do I make it different? And how do I make it the event that I want to attend? Because that's what I've kind of have done. If I make an event that, that I will enjoy going to, because I think I'm a pretty, well-rounded event and an attendee. I said, okay, if I can make it what I want it to be, that'll be a good event. So that's kind of my whole thought on every decision that I make is, will I enjoy this, or would I enjoy this decision, this rule, this whatever's going on at the event if I was an attendee? So then I came up with a business model. Said, okay, try to figure out how much to charge, what things are going to cost me, and all the other things that go into that. And then I sort of tested the waters to my audience and said, okay, would you guys attend if I stuck my leg out and tried to put on this event? And just the response was overwhelming. So I knew, okay, all right, if I can put this together, I can make it happen and people will show up. So then I started planning. One of the hardest things for my event was finding a venue, because I was going to be inviting, up to 300 people was what I was projecting the first year. Might be my cap. We ended up with 152 or 151, I believe it was. But so I had to find it in a venue that would allow me to have all these random people come in and, had places for them to camp, one the central area for us all to primitively camp that had bathrooms, that had showers, that had some sort of pavilion, that had parking, all this other nonsense, and that was in a good central location that would provide my attendees with something to do during the day. Like the first year we were in Marianna, Florida, if you guys are familiar with that, and there's a lot of springs and stuff around there that people would like to go paddling on. There's the Chipola River, just a lot of good stuff in that area. So I said, okay, I found a state park, the Florida Cavern State Park there, and they were on board with me. And it was still difficult to deal with because, the way this state park is ran, it's, managed by, the state, and how they book all of their sites and their campgrounds and stuff is aggravating, especially when you want to put on an event. But I was able to finagle it and make it work. It took a lot of, negotiating and visits with the park director, but finally got that figured out. So I said, okay, all right, this is all going to work. We have parking. We've got, all the facilities that we need. Okay, we can make this work. So then I was like, okay, how do we get all these people to register? And, I didn't want to pay for some, software that would, automatically register and take a cut from everything that I was going to be doing. So I said, okay, it's my first year. Let's just, I'm going to have people sign up through my website. I have, just a regular website where I sell merchandise and stuff. And I was like, okay, I can just sell a digital product and it be a digital registration. And I can take people's shirt size and, ask them a few questions about their camping, like if they're going to be in a hammock or a tent, because I need to know that because, if I had everyone who was going to attend wanted to be in a hammock, do I have enough trees at my campground to support that? So that was kind of a little bit of extra information I was gathering as people were registering. But so that all worked out. And as people would register, I would manually take their names and all their information and data, and I would input it into an Excel spreadsheet that I created. So then, I got all that figured out. I said, okay, all right, I've got pretty much a plan on how to make it happen. So then I started marketing it, and that would be me, posting on my social media, mentioning it in a YouTube video, mentioning it on my Facebook and Instagram and all that nonsense. And then I created a Facebook group and invited everyone to come, and that's where all the attendees could kind of chat and stuff, and that was a very beneficial thing because it kind of created a community. And with an event like RockaDock, it is a community, very much a community. People get to know each other, and I mean, it's pretty amazing how all that works. So whenever you can have an online community for people to come together, not only does that help those people become, diehard RockaDockers or diehard, people who are going to come to your event every year, but they're also going to spread the word. And when someone else new comes into the group and they ask a question, it's awesome when the attendees are answering those questions, because that's just awesome community there. So that was just a really good marketing thing. And, if you can have a good, successful group where people can communicate well, it's very beneficial. So then we went into all the prep work, or I say all this was me. I did all the event planning, and I still have done all the event planning and everything for the 3 years that we've had RockaDock. I do get some help with volunteers, and I had a staff, my first staff member on our 3rd year, which was last year. But most of the stuff I've done myself and developed all these plans and ideas. I didn't have anything to go by, I didn't have anything. So I just kind of, I don't know, I was winging it, but it worked. So then I went into the prep work, which was like designing the t-shirt and designing a free sticker, because I wanted to give people swag whenever they got there. Everybody got a goodie bag when they got there with their free t-shirt that was in their size from the data that I was collecting as they registered. They got their sticker, everyone got a name tag with their name on it. So, so that whenever they're walking around the event, people know, okay, hey, this is so-and-so. So, kind of help learn people's names, but also for me personally, since sometimes, or kind of people were there, because they watched my videos and they wanted to kind of meet me and kind of hang out a little bit. So when I put their name on their chest, I could, whenever I met them, I could say, hey, Becky, how are you doing? Or, hey, whoever, so that really helped me. But it helped the whole community as a whole, and, develop the family. Then another difficult thing was coming up with event rules. All events have rules, and sometimes they're stringent, and sometimes you have to make rules that you don't necessarily like, but they have to be there in order for the event to be successful and to keep everyone happy. Because, you know, as the event director or anyone, any part of the staff, I think one of your main jobs is to limit the amount of people that you upset throughout the event, because you're going to upset someone. You know, there's going to be people who aren't happy with something, because not everybody is just going to, you know, love all the rules. Something's going to, you know, something's not going to jive. So if you can just limit the amount of people that you upset, you're going to be doing as good as you can do. So I had to make those rules, and, you know, some of them, you know, I didn't like, you know, having to follow, because it kind of changed the way that I would interact in the event and who I may bring to the event and stuff like that. But they had to be there for a reason. Then basically, you know, I just kind of had to set up the things that would happen during the event. Like we had a raffle, you know, so I had to start sourcing all these raffle prizes and figure out how we're going to hold the raffle and all that nonsense. And, you know, then I had waterproof maps printed out that were free to everyone as they were going to go on these paddling trips in these waters that they didn't know. You know, I gave them all the information that they needed, and I did it what I would say well. You know, I gave them a good waterproof map. So when they went kayaking, they had this map that was going to last, and they could save it for, you know, years down the line, or if they ever came back to the area to visit, they had this awesome map. You know, so that's a pretty cool little piece of, I don't know, swag or whatever that they can keep. So, you know, and that was one of the things that I did to make my event special, because I've never have heard of that, anyone doing that, or, you know, stuff like that. So that's something that was just, you know, kind of set things apart. And everyone really liked that. Had several people comment, wow, the maps, what an awesome touch trip. So then we cooked breakfast for everyone, for all the attendees one morning. And that's an undertaking, but it provided value to the attendees, and it kind of set things apart and made things special. Because, you know, I had been to an event previously that did something similar, but I learned from that event some things I didn't like about the way that they handled it. And, you know, we didn't get enough food, you know, things were cold or something or another, you know, it just wasn't great. And, you know, me, I like to eat, and I like to eat a good breakfast. So I said, okay, if I'm gonna do a breakfast, I'm gonna do it right. And I'm going to provide people with the best and as much as they want. So we had awesome sausage, eggs, pancakes. I mean, it was the works. And, you know, so, you know, I said anything about an event that I'm going to do it right, or I'm not going to do it at all, because I don't want to halfway do something and, you know, upset more people. But, you know, it was kind of a learning process to figure out how much food to prep, how to prep it. And fortunately, I was able to get some awesome volunteers to help cook pancakes and to serve and stuff like that. You know, but it takes a lot of thought and thinking to plan that and make it go right. But fortunately, we got lucky and things went well. But also the attendees, they were happy while they were there. So if small things went wrong, they weren't exactly upset over the small things. So I was lucky in that way. Then I had to plan things like, you know, how I was going to decorate and set up the actual venue and stuff, and the campgrounds. And, you know, and as the years have progressed, I've kind of done a little bit more and more to kind of make things a little more, I don't know, welcoming and stuff like that, and adding lights and adding different banners and different signage around the campground to kind of make it feel, I don't know, I don't even know a word for it. That's how much I know about this stuff, but I just knew that, you know, that would kind of help the whole vibe around the event. And then we had to come up with
branded. That's what to make it feel
branding. There you go. Yeah, branding. Or I was thinking more of, you know, the overall feel and how you felt whenever you came. You know, because, you know, I'd seen some other events, kind of like, you know, like a Bonnaroo type festivals and music festivals, how they have all this kind of psychedelic nonsense around. And granted, you know, I've never been to an event like that, but I kind of understand, you know, the reason that they have that stuff, or one of their psychological reasons, I think, is because when people come there and they see this unique stuff, it kind of puts you just in a different state of mind, right? You know, when you see all this kind of funky stuff, you're just like, hey, we can just chill out. You know, and you know, this is what we're here for. We're not here to worry, man. Look at all this cool stuff. You know, so I kind of want to start implementing that into the event, and I'm going to keep doing that more and more every year, because I really like it. Because, like I said, it puts you in a state of mind, and, you know, that's one of the reasons people are going to come to an event, especially, you know, if you're not actually, you know, they're not coming for information, but they're coming for more of an experience. You know, the part of the experience is that state of mind that they get into there, you know, whenever they're chill, they have nothing to worry about. and they're interacting with people and having a good time. So anything you can do to ease their state of mind and to kind of get them into a better mood, I think is a great thing. And that just makes the overall experience. So whenever they leave, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so awesome being there. I really don't know why, but I think one of the reasons might be because they were psychologically just in a different state of mind, and it made them enjoy the event even more. During the event, things were very, very busy for me as the director. I guess that's what you could call me, as the director, because I was worrying about things like, well, the number one thing I was worrying about is keeping people happy. But then, we're working the merchandise table, answering questions, but then other things like, making sure that things were running well behind the scenes, like is the toilet paper in the bathroom getting changed? Is the bathroom floor clean? How are the showers? Do we have enough trash cans? How's the parking? Are people parking where they're supposed to be parking? And no, a lot of times people didn't. So the third year, I had little bitty pieces of paper that kind of said, hey, I wish you wouldn't park here. Would you please park in the designated parking area? And during the times when the campground was empty during the day, when everyone was out paddling, I would go around and I would kind of slip those onto the car windshields or onto their windows, so that whenever they came back, they saw it and they said, oh yeah, hey, I need to move my car. So that was kind of an easy way to hopefully upset them as little as possible. Just a little friendly reminder that, hey, would you please move your car? So just stuff like that was going on during the event. But really and truly, when you run an event, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know what's going to go wrong. Like one year we had people, they were out paddling during the day. One year we had people get lost on the river. One of the people in their paddling group was lost, and so I get a phone call and they say, hey, Trip, we're under the bridge. Several miles up, we still haven't made it to the end of our paddle, and we lost someone in our group. So I'm like, okay, boom. So we just mounted a rescue, went and had to handle that. So you never know what is going to come up, and you may have confrontations between some of the attendees, and that's going to happen. And you need to just have kind of an idea in your mind of how you're going to handle that, because that can be very troublesome, and the ramifications from that can go on to subsequent years, because I had that problem with some people, but fortunately, I was able to, talk with these people and make them understand that, hey, I'm doing the best I can with what I can, all the factors that I can control. And here's the plan for next year. We hope so much that you will come back to RockaDock. And what do you know? They did. And I think it's because I was so open and I was so honest and straightforward to these people when they came at me with a problem, because that's something that you always need to do, is be honest and straightforward with people. Don't ever lie to somebody just to make them happy. You need to tell them the truth. You need to have your rules and say, look, this is why we have this rule, or this is how we're handling this situation, and this is why. So if you kind of explain to people how you're making this rational decision that is the best for everyone, a lot of times they will understand. Sometimes they won't, but if you've been honest about everything else and you've created this good event, this good experience, and also if you have kind of let them know, whether that be through social media or how you're interacting, that, hey, I've been working on this, doing my best, they're going to be more understanding whenever something does go wrong, and they're going to get less upset. So you're upsetting as few people as possible. So that's my general spiel of how all this kind of worked and how it all went together. And I have learned a lot over the years, and I'm still learning a lot. But one thing I'm doing is I'm always improving the event, because I don't want it to be the same event every year. I want there to be something bigger and better, so people keep coming back, people keep spreading the word and stuff like that, because word of mouth is very powerful in growth. Because the first year we had 151 or 52 attendees. The second year we may have had, 180 something, and then this past year we had 255. And they came from across the country, so we had it down in the Florida Panhandle. We had people come from as far as Washington State, and people come from Michigan, people come from Colorado, and everywhere. And we actually had some people who were registered from New Zealand and other places where they were flying in, but due to COVID, their flights were canceled. So, that just goes to show that, if you do an event correctly and you make the experience wonderful, word's going to spread, people are going to come, as long as there's a need there and you're doing it right. It's not super difficult, or it's not impossible to create a great event that can be prosperous.
Right, good. What questions do you guys have? Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I would love to answer some questions.
Kari has his hand raised.
What's you got, Kari?
Hello, Trip. Thank you for this time, first of all, and second. So like when it came to the planning of, I guess, the safety guidelines, what was that like? So safety and the protocols for that.
Okay, whenever I was planning that, what I did, I would go to other similar events and I would look at their rules and stuff, and I would say, okay, uh, these are the rules that these people have in place. Which ones of those may apply to my event? And then I would just, and I had a list of different rules written down and different ideas. And then, I would go in my head and I would say, okay, what's the worst case scenario? What could go wrong and how am I going to handle that? And I had a plan just basically in my head, because we didn't have staff like, rescue squad or anything like that, or we didn't have security or anything. So I just kind of had a plan in my head on how I would implement something. And I had some friends and some people around it. If something did go down, I knew who was capable of doing what. I knew we had some police officers. I knew we had some first responders there. So I knew, okay, if something went down, this is who I'm going to go to. This is how we're going to handle it. But we didn't really have a lot of guidelines or a lot of just strict measures put in place. But I just tried to envision what would go wrong and how am I going to handle it? Because I am a career firefighter, so I kind of have an understanding on what to do when things go wrong. So that might have been in my advantage, but fortunately, we didn't really have anything major go wrong. So we're lucky in that aspect.
I wanted to ask, where did you get the name RockaDock from?
Okay, great question. So I had been part of some events in the past. I've been part of a music festival, and that my family was part of, and we came up with the name Toad Lick. Right? Isn't that a crazy off-the-wall name? So I was like, okay. And when you hear about these other names or these other events that have these funky names that just kind of stick in your mind, like Bonnaroo, all this crazy stuff. You're like, look, it doesn't mean anything, but people are going to remember it. So I started trying to brainstorm, like, okay, what are we going to call this event? So I had a running list of all kind of funky names. And I was, reaching out to some of my friends and stuff. And I said, okay, I'm trying to come up with a funky name. Give me your best ideas. And one of my buddies, he said, hey, what about RockaDock? And I was like, that is crazy, but I like it. And so we just went with it. So it just kind of, I just wanted something random that would stick in people's heads, that was unique. And, and you can kind of play off of RockaDock a little bit, and it sounds coolish, so we just went with it. But I also, I have another event that I'm developing, and it is skiff. So this is another event because I do some adventures on small boats. And so I try to come up with a name with that. And sometimes you can have just a random name, or you can have a name that will describe your event. So here we go. We have skiff. It's an event that is revolving around people who do adventures in boats. And skiff is a regular name. Like, that's what I call my boat. It's a skiff. That's what people who use my boats call it. And so boom, you talk about branding, a name, people know what it is right here. Whenever you see this, I mean, you have the logo, everything just works with that. So you can go different ways when you pick a name, but you just want something that is either going to be unique, people are going to remember it, or either that's going to tell everyone what your event is.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, just sometimes things just happen. So the name Trip rhymes really good with dip. And so Trip got in a lot of his videos when he would get hot or wanted to jump in the water, he would say trip dip. Well, the whole time that we were at RockaDock, people would get to that point and they go, okay, it's time for everybody to do a trip dip. We would all jump off of our boats and jump into the water in the springs. And anyway, you don't want to see my 40-year-old self in a bikini, but I had a good time, and like video of all of us jumping off of the dock into the springs, and we would all scream trip dip as we would jump off. So sometimes it's just that catchy, like people remember it.
Yep, just like RockaDock. I mean, now it's pretty catchy, especially if you're part of the event. I mean, RockaDock is a pretty cool name.
Hey, Trip. So you talked a lot about your your branding and building the energy around your event with little things that you did at the event. How did you preemptively build that energy to encourage people to come kind of when you were advertising for the event, make people excited to show up?
Okay. First off, I had people ask me, okay, we want to do something. We want to go on a paddling trip with you. How do I go on a paddling trip with you? Well, I just couldn't make that happen. So I would kind of throw little hints out there in some videos like, hey, I'm working on something. And then whenever it happened, I just posted it everywhere. I posted a few videos about the process, kind of get people excited. And then, one of the first things I did is once I landed my actual venue, I went down to the venue and I filmed the area, where the actual campground, and I made an entertaining video of the campground. And how do you do that? I mean, I can't exactly tell you, but I mean, you can go back and you can watch those videos if you just type in RockaDock, and you can see, because like for one of them, I went through and I was just having fun around the campground, doing random stuff and explaining what we're going to do. And I mean, that's one of my strengths, is to be able to get on video and to have a good time, and to make that good time flow into the audience. And so since that was my strength, that's how I did it. So I was working my strength. So I just made these videos of all the springs around it, all the awesome paddling opportunities, all the stuff that people wanted to do and that would make the event great. I was showing that stuff. And I said, okay, we're going to do all this great and awesome stuff, and this is what it's going to be. And so I talked about this stuff, but I delivered, and I delivered in a good way all this stuff, so that the next year, whenever we changed venues, people said, and I made another video about this new venue, and I showcased all the playground on it. I did something on the merry-go-round, all this silly stuff, went and jumped in the water, all this crazy stuff. But whenever I was displaying all this or showcasing it, people knew, okay, this is it. Trip's going to deliver. We know that from this last year, he made all of it happen. He's going to do it again, and it's going to be even better. So really, I just work my strength. That is one of the things. And I know that a lot of people may not be able to just get on video and make some exciting video about their venue, because how hard is that, or about their event, because if you watch some that other people have done, or other events have put on, sometimes they'll make just like this random hype video that you see, like a GoPro video, or just a commercial. Mine wasn't so much of a commercial as it was, hey, this is the experience that you're going to experience. Come and do it with me. We're going to have a good time. We're going to make this happen. You better be here, right? It's kind of like that, and I said it to the camera, and I said it, when I talk to the camera, it's like I'm talking to the person who is watching on the other side, on their phone or at their desktop, whatever. And I just made them feel like, okay, we got to go. Or at least that's what I think I did. That was my goal.
Definitely. And I would say from my RockaDock experience, there is a certain amount of followers that Trip has. He's being very humble right now, but he does have a certain amount of followers who are very like fangirl, they're excited to see him, and oh my gosh, there's Trip, because that's just how it is when you're behind the camera. And you all know how that is with TikTok and different things that have developed from people's households. So, anyway, one of the things that I loved and that he delivered on was, as silly as it sounds, was a bandana. So he had these bandanas printed with the map of the venue on it. And so I was so excited to get my bandana, and wear it for the week around my hair or whatever. And so it's that when he had those done, he showed everybody, this is what you're going to get when you get to RockaDock. And so everybody was excited to get to RockaDock and get those things. And so he did deliver. And so that is a huge component of event planning, is don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Absolutely. I have to agree 110% on that, because, if you let people down in one area, they're going to say, okay, well, maybe this that he talked about it going to be as great as it is. Maybe the whole event's going to suck. Maybe it's not going to be as good as what we think. But especially if you underpromise and overdeliver, like we do with the breakfast and stuff like that, or with the, with the raffle. I mean, you just got to make it awesome. Make it awesome, and people are going to show up.
I just wanted to ask, the skiff is a sailboat, right? Like it's a mini sailboat?
Technically, a skiff is a small, flat-bottomed boat. typically an open boat. So no, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sailboat. And most of the time they are going to be motorboats, or in the olden days, they were rowboats, or yeah, maybe even sailboats. But these days, when you hear the word skiff, it's a small boat that has a flat bottom that can go in really shallow water. Pretty much is what it is these days.
So how do you like propel yourself with paddles or?
No, motor for sure. Especially when you're doing some 100-mile trips and stuff, I use a motor because I'm going to do this trip in 3 days, so no, I do not want to be paddling that far.
I mean, you could do it.
Yeah, you could do it. And I have paddled some, I think my longest paddling trip was a little over 100 miles, but it took me like 5 days, and I was paddling every day, all day, so, it's nice to be able to, go from one spot to the other. And when I get to a spot, whether it's a spring or a beach or somewhere to snorkel or somewhere to fish, I still have the energy to create a good video instead of being paddling all day and make boring video essentially. And then when I get to my destination, I'm wore out. So a skiff just makes sense. And it also, with a limited time, that I have, I can, because I have a full-time job and a family, I can do these bigger adventures and go to different places when I have something like a skiff.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that we started watching Trip to start with is because he has grown in viewers, and people are starting to find out who he is, that he also gets to try out a lot of gear. So he will have companies send him gear, or he may purchase the gear just to try out, and then he will demonstrate that gear like in his videos, and he'll talk about the different pros and the cons, and that really helps people who are wanting to plan similar trips be able to know, okay, this is something that would work for me, or this was a good positive thing. Like he just featured a flashlight on his Instagram the other day, and I actually ordered it for my boyfriend for his birthday. So, I was like, yay, that's good to know, because he likes flashlights. So
he's gonna love it. That sucker's bad at bone.
Yeah, that looked like it was a good demonstration. But
yeah. Hey, I see we have a question in the chat. Katie said, how do you go about taking on suggestions and or complaints each year to make it better for the next? Well, the first year, what I did I believe it was the last morning, I went around with my camera and I asked people, I said, hey, how was the event? How did it go? What'd you like? What could be done different? And that was a pretty good thing to do. And not only did it give me some feedback, but I took that video and I posted it on YouTube and shared it to the group and everyone who may potentially want to go, so they could see, wow, this is pretty awesome. People actually had fun here and they didn't have complaints, right? But I don't exactly have like a complaint form or anything like that for people to make. But basically, I am I do interact with the community and with everyone there at the event, and I make friends with all these people. So what that does is, if anything bad goes on, it goes to the grapevine and it eventually gets to me. So I learned that way, because I just have these, people who just come and they talk to me, which is great, because I want to know the good and the bad and the ugly. I think each year I get on the Facebook group and I say, hey guys, what can we do to improve next year? And boom, here come the comments, bunch of comments. Most of them, or a lot of them will say, there's nothing, it's great, it's awesome. Then some people will say, what if we had a table in the bathroom? I think that was one of them from year 2. So, hey, what did I do year 3? I went and I put a table in the bathroom so that people could have somewhere to put their stuff for when they took a shower. I put a fan in there because I noticed that it got a little, steamy and humid in the bathroom, and just these little bitty tweaks just made a big difference, because the third year after I did all those little improvements, people said, wow, nice touch. There's a table and a fan in the bathroom. Perfect. What an improvement over last year. I'm like, boom, perfect. See, that is why you do these small things. So basically, you just have to figure out some way to get feedback from from the people there, whether or not, if you are getting it directly from the people or through the grapevine, that is one way. But, if I wasn't getting that type of feedback, I would probably send out a survey or something to all of the emails that came in when everyone registered on my website. If I wasn't getting any feedback, I may message a few people directly and say, hey, how was your group? Did they enjoy their time? What went wrong? What went well? What can we improve on next year? So, you just have to find some way just to get to those people and to ask them, because people who enjoyed or didn't enjoy the event, they'll share their opinion pretty openly, which is valuable information, because that, those direct opinions and those direct suggestions really can make a difference. Even the small ones, like the example with a table in the bathroom. Great question, Caitlin.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And that's one of the things we're going to be talking about content-wise in class next Tuesday, is how to do an evaluation to measure whether you've met your goals and objectives. So one of the things, and you don't have to get too informational about this part, Trip, but I'm sure one of your goals may have been to fundraising to a certain extent.
Sure.
And so when you address that from a financial standpoint, how did you address the budget part of your event?
Well, for the first year, I didn't really have a budget. I just said, okay, we're going to charge this much per person. So we have about, if we get this is our, target of, how many attendees we want to have. So this is how much money we had to work with. Can we make it work? And I said, yes, because the numbers lined up with what my projected costs were. And then I just went in and I was pretty conservative about my spending for the first year, because I didn't know how things were going to go. I didn't know if people were going to show up. I didn't know if everyone was going to cancel their registration at the last minute. But things went well. So I said the next year, okay, all right, well, let's broaden our budget. Here's some things that we can improve on. Here's some suggestions that, hey, it may cost us a little bit of money, but it's going to be worth it to make people happy and to make the overall event experience better. So I just kind of, my budget each year for the event is going up, and which I think is a good thing, because I'm providing more value. Yes, it costs money to do that, but the value of, or the return of that is greater than the cost, because, it's about creating this experience, right? And, this overall feeling when you're there. And if it takes a little bit of money to make these decorations, or it takes a little bit of money, $3 and something a piece to make these bandanas, is it worth it? Probably, because, hey, look here, your teacher, Becky remembers it, right? So, and I remember it. Those bandanas were pretty awesome. And, so now I know, okay, all right, a little bit of swag is a good thing to spend money on. Granted, the price may have to go up $5 or something to get to add a koozie to it, or to add a flag to it, or to add something to it next year. But, you always need to keep improving. If it takes a little bit of money, it's okay, because if you have these people who know that, okay, when I come to RockaDock, I'm going to have a good time. If the price goes up a little bit, they're going to probably say, you know what? I think the price is going up for a reason. Something's going to be even better this year. It's okay. But, and plus, you want your price point to be realistic, because, I think RockaDock's price point is very realistic. The first year I think we did $75 or so, and I think last year was like $85, and which is a heck of a bargain, because people get a t-shirt, which is usually like 20, 25, $30. You get a bandana, which if you were to buy that might be $10, for a custom bandana. Then you get a camping site for 4 nights. When what is that going to cost people? That's like $25 at a state park, and that's a cheap place. And then per night, and then people get a free breakfast. They get all this other cool stuff. These maps. So I believe, or actually I'm pretty sure, I'm providing more value to the attendee than they're having to spend to register. So I think, as long as you can do that and, make the pricing fair, but also deliver on the value, people are going to show up.
What other questions?
Come on with the questions.
Do you provide entertainment? I see you have a guitar in the back during your events. What?
Okay. Yes, actually, for the 3 years that we've had it, after the raffle, which is on the last night, we do kind of, I guess you could say, yeah, I do provide a little entertainment. And, it's always a fun time. Sometimes it lasts a while. Maybe, like I remember last year, I didn't even go to sleep on that last night. I just stayed up, and whenever people started going to bed at like 4 a.m., I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start packing up, because I got to get this thing shut down. But yes, so we do provide entertainment, and I think that is another, positive thing. Granted, we had 255 people there total last year, but whenever we had the actual, the the music and stuff going on. There weren't that many people there, but I do think that it's still valuable, and I like it. I have a good time, so I think we're going to continue that. And also we were lucky this year, I'm all right, when it comes to music, but we had someone who showed up who was like a legit professional, awesome, musician. And he's like, he was sitting out in the crowd and I was up there playing, and he was playing his guitar, and, I went, took a little break and he was playing. I was like, man, get up here and play. And he got up there and he played for like an hour and a half and he killed it. So that just made the value awesome. And so, people are going to remember that, because trust me, whenever the things were over, people were messaging me and said, oh my gosh, Trey Davis, that was his name. Said Trey Davis was awesome. Is he coming back next year? You never know what you're going to get from your attendees. I know that different events are different. They're not all set up the same. And, we may not have an attendee who's just willing to do something like that. You may not have that opportunity, but if you do, it's good to capitalize on it. And, I kind of took a chance. I didn't know what he was going to get there and do. I didn't know how he was going to act, but he was very professional and it was fantastic. So yes, we do provide entertainment, and it's quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, Trey Davis was amazing. Like, he really was. You could tell that he had definitely put on shows before. Definitely. So, but Tripp's not too bad. He's not too bad himself. He's pretty good as well. So
I just like to have a good time.
Definitely. But I really appreciate you joining class today and taking time out of your schedule between your full-time career, your family, and then, your hobby YouTube channel and everything you have going on. We very much appreciate your time and expertise this morning.
Very happy to be here, and I appreciate every moment.
Any closing comments, Tripp?
Just make it special, make people happy, make it a great experience.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Tripp.
Yep, thank y'all. Enjoyed it.